Good morning, friends. Good morning, nations, and good morning, the house of CCI. What a joy. Today's Sunday, and I have been in a fantastic service today. Presence of God so strong. Just really touched and loving watching the people. Prophetic words very strong, really challenging people's hearts. Good attendance. And then at the end, the Holy Spirit just spoke to me that, hey, I want to prophesy to some people today. So we kind of pulled together a prophetic team right quick and probably prophesied about 30% of the people in the building. Great service, great presence of God, great worship team, great preaching today. Sandra Serrano had the joy of being with us. And so I'm saying that because this is a normal service. A normal service where God is moving in a very powerful way. I just invite you, these are all on the CCI app. You can watch it with us at the moment that it's happening, or you can watch later. You can watch in English. The 9 o'clock is always in English, as well as Spanish. And so we just have a great time together. And of course, these videos are on the app, and they are what? They are there in English as well. And so wonderful stuff going on. We're talking about the mission of Christ, and we're talking especially about John 1:18, where Jesus says, or where the Bible tells us that Jesus has come to reveal the Father. You know, when I think about my youth, I was very capricious, I was very stubborn, I was very curious, I was very wanting to know stuff. I was rebellious. I didn't do a lot of things that my dad said. As a matter of fact, one of the sounds that I remember very clearly in my youth is my dad's belt coming off his waist. I can just remember that so often because I did a lot of stuff to get in trouble. And one time my wife, Fonda, was looking at some of the pictures where I'm with my sister, and she says, hey, your sister's never smiling when she's in a picture with you. And my sister said, no, he's always pinched me or done something that has caused me to have a problem. And so that's really kind of the kid I was growing up. I disobeyed a lot, got several spankings, and didn't get near as many as I deserved or should have had. And so I remember one time my dad kind of said, well, just go out and cut a switch. And so I went out to the tree in the front yard and I cut a switch. Ooh, I moved it around. No, that's too powerful. I got a smaller switch. I know he would never go for that one. So I don't know how many switches I cut before I finally got in and got a spanking with the switch I cut. But those were things that my dad did because he knew if he couldn't set a limit on me, I would be uncontrolled and probably end up in prison. And so that was an interesting thing to me, and that was the dad that I remember. My dad was very loving in the sense that I never doubted that I was loved, but I never doubted that there was a wrong. I never doubted that there was a right. And I always knew that my dad expected me to do right, and if I did not do right, there would be consequences. So that is one of the things that I remember very clearly as I'm growing up. So time goes by, and I find this wonderful girl, and we get married, and we end up going to the mission field and staying there several years. And so we would try to go home on Christmases, and often did that, especially when our children were younger. So after a few years, I remember going into my father's house, and I'm looking over there, and my dad had 2 lazy boy rocking chairs. They would recline, but they also rocked. So I go into the den, and there's my dad sitting in one of the rocking chairs. There's my mother sitting in the other rocking chair. And as they're sitting in the rocking chairs, they're leaning back, they're lazy boys, and they're holding hands and watching a baseball game. And when I saw that, I mean, that was very impacting to me. Here they are, they've been married probably at that time close to 50 years. And they were holding hands. Nobody was there. They were just holding hands on their own, and they were watching TV together. And when I saw that caused me to understand something that I did not understand. And the thing that it caused me to understand was my dad was a romantic. And my dad was in love with my mother, and my mother was in love with my dad. And because of that love, they had 3 children. Janet, Richard, and Patrick. Now, as I look at this now, I begin to see that my dad was somebody that he would have not really chosen to be. He was in love with my mother. He was a romantic in that sense. But because of me being a problematic kid, because of me being pretty rebellious, because of me being selfish, because of all this stuff that was in me, it's kind of like my dad had to be something that he didn't really plan on being with me. But because he did love me, he understood that if he didn't do these limits on me, that what? Well, that I would probably end up in prison, like I said before. And so all of a sudden I realized that my dad was who I needed him to be, not who he would have chosen to be on his own. Are you getting a hold of what I'm saying? My dad was who I needed him to be, not who he would have chosen to be on his own. Now, in that context, you can begin to understand a little bit the Old Testament. We will talk more about this in our next one. But hey, get with us in the app, CCI Life. And we're showing very clearly where all the English stuff is, and there's a lot of wonderful Spanish stuff there too. And of course, follow me every day in this Facebook deal on these hello or good morning Latin American, good morning nations and friends. Bless you, and I want to talk more about this because it is super exciting to me. It was a real revelation in my life.